we are talking about Taiwanese society, Taiwanese people, then of course democracy is something which is closer to us, which is something that we'd like to nurture and to hold on to. We know that democratic space in the world is shrinking, and the current research shows that we have to protect democracy, and democratic bloc has to be united. So we believe that developing relations with Taiwanese, not only in cultural area, but even more so in economic area, in the area of science, of education, of medical research and other areas, from biotechnologies to other IT fields and etc. We see a lot of potential.
我跟太太我们两个人到了立陶宛的国会，那今天特别来访问立陶宛国会议员 Dovilė Šakalienė。Dovilė, thank you so much for letting us come here, and thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this interview. I know that you have been in Taiwan a couple of months ago. How do you feel about the country? Did you like it there? Can you give some of words to my Taiwanese viewers?
Well, I really miss my Taiwanese friends. I wish I could see them soon enough. And I haven't seen much of Taiwan, I admit, because due to COVID pandemic, we were kept in a very strict diplomatic bubble. I mean, the strictest that I've ever seen. But it's understandable, because Taiwan is a perfect example how pandemic can be controlled with applying very careful scrutiny and very adequate measures. So I wish I would be able to come and see the beauty of Taiwan sometime later. But what I was able to see, and it made a really big impression on me, were the people. So we had very high-level meetings from your president, Madam Tsai Ing-wen, and it was an honor really to meet her. From first look, a very fragile, tiny woman with absolutely steel spine, very clear opinions that are full of wisdom and insight, and also your prime minister. He made also a great impression on our delegation as a person who is really wise, has seen a lot, and made very insightful comments. For example, he said, I won't be able to quote exactly, but the idea was that People's Republic of China is building its power on fear. It's based on fear. Therefore, it's very fragile, because fear crumbles sooner or later. So I think that, he really has a lot to give, and I'd be happy to meet again. And of course, your Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Joseph Wu, was someone who really charmed our delegation. Someone being so open-minded, yet very competent, very professional, and we had a lot to talk about. And of course, we met your National Security Council leadership, we met Minister of Economics, we met Council for Development, and etc. We had dozens of meetings, I think about 3 dozens of meetings in the course of just 1 week. So this was probably the most intense visit that I had, at least in this term.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for these warm words. And I do agree with the saying that the power which is built on fear, it can easily crumble. Exactly. And for Taiwan, it's a country that has been under constant pressure from a big neighbor. Probably it's a little bit similar to what's going on in Lithuania. I think that democracies, the democratic countries who have been under some authoritarian pressure before, we should unite, we should share experiences, and probably there is a lot of things that can be shared between Taiwanese experiences and Lithuanian experiences. And finally, the representative office of Taiwan is being opened in Vilnius, and it will be much easier for the citizens of both Taiwan and Lithuania to communicate, for the cultural exchanges, for the people to come here, because when you have a representative office, you can do a lot of things much more easier without going to the third country, right? And what do you think about the further development between of the relationships between Lithuania and Taiwan?
So we all know that People's Republic of China has reacted very inadequately to opening of Taiwanese representative office. And what was really surprising is that their narrative contains so much threats and intimidation and allegations that were completely unjustified. Lithuania has not violated any international agreements or bilateral treaties, and we are free to exercise our right to develop, to nurture relationships with any society or any state that we'd like. So when we are talking about Taiwanese society, Taiwanese people, then of course democracy is something which is closer to us, which is something that we'd like to nurture and to hold on to. We know that democratic space in the world is shrinking, and the current research shows that we have to protect democracy, and democratic bloc has to be united. So we believe that developing relations with Taiwanese, not only in cultural area, but even more so in economic area, in the area of science, of education, of medical research and other areas, from biotechnologies to other IT fields and etc., we see a lot of potential. First of all, because Taiwanese are just like us, democratic society, which means that this is a very good platform for predictable, sustainable, and long-term relations. That means that we can trust each other, that we are both transparent, and that we build our relations on legitimate grounds. Whereas when we talk about People's Republic of China, what we have seen is deterioration not only of democracy, but also of upkeeping of international standards.
Yes.
And the attack on Lithuania is an attack on whole EU, because it destructs the concept of single market, and also an attack on global trade, because the free trade must lead businesses where they want to go and not where someone politically pushes them to. And in that case, what we see is Beijing basically building a Sino-centric trade system instead of free trade system. And that is also destructing the whole concept of free market. So in that case, what we have to do is we have to stand united and to protect our values. At the same time, we need to hold the international agreements, and we still need to use the legal means. So I'm so glad that EU turned to World Trade Organization to initiate investigation.
Yes, it was the right decision by the European Union, because for the People's Republic of China, when they're trying to disrupt the common the single market that we have right now here in the European Union, and actually it's bullying against one country of the whole bloc. And what was very surprising for me when I saw it on the news, that the People's Republic of China is putting pressure on, for example, German companies, German car manufacturers that procure some of the parts from Lithuania, and they tell them not to buy anything from Lithuania, or you will lose an access to the Chinese market. But on the other hand, what we see is that Taiwan right now decided to launch $1 billion United States credit fund for Lithuania. And in addition, there is going to be 200 million investment in Lithuania,
yes,
including the area of semiconductors, which is one of the most crucial industries of Taiwan. Could you tell the viewers a little bit about the whole embargo which is being placed by China, by People's Republic of China, and if the measures that are being taken by the Taiwanese, if they will help Lithuania, and how do you see the further development of economic relationships between the two?
So first of all, there is a disclaimer. I am working on the Committee of National Security and Defense, the second term, so economic relations is not my area of expertise. But what I can do is share some information related to this, and my own subjective opinion and my hopes. So I'll start from the positive ones. Of course, I'm sure and I'm hoping that the credit program and the investment fund will add to sustainable long-term relationship which is mutually beneficial for Lithuanian and Taiwanese societies, but at the same time beneficial Europe-wise and globally. Because whenever we develop new technologies, whenever we build joint projects and programs together, what we do is we build more sustainable future in the fields of what you mentioned, semiconductors. We can't imagine the world of today, not even talking about the world of tomorrow, without successful use of this technology, but also biotechnology, investing in science. What we need is a world which is safer for every human being, and we need a world which is more sustainable. So I think this is going into the right direction. But when we talk about the sad moments, is what People's Republic of China has been doing with Lithuania with the means of economic coercion and undeclared secondary sanctions, which is unprecedented situation. Yeah. So I can mention several facts. So, for example, Chinese started attacking us last summer in August when the Minister of Foreign Affairs informed our ministry about the recalling of the ambassador and arguing that Lithuania's position on Taiwan is unacceptable and forcing us to recall our ambassador from Beijing to consultations. But nevertheless, we also suspended in November the issuance of visas in Lithuania, and then they indicated that it was suspended for technical reasons. Well, I won't comment on that. Then also in August, China's railway company, China Railway Container Transport Corporation, announced that at the end of August and September, direct freight trains from China to Lithuania will be cancelled. Then on the 2nd of December, Lithuanian business announced that Lithuania was deleted from China customs system as a country, stopping all exports to China from Lithuania. And the situation lasted for some time until the European Union asked what's happening and what's going on. And that's another positive moment. So when we react as a team, then change happens. So Lithuania miraculously reappeared in the electronic customs system. Also, Lithuanian companies were not able to get their goods to China from the beginning of December at all. And when this term Lithuania was selected at the Chinese customs system, then system error used to occur. So still technical measures of challenging our
technical
business.
Issues.
That's why we say, we retain deniability.
Okay.
Yes, so that we can then deny whatever we did. Then another moment is that according to one of our economists, Marius Dubnikovas, the value of goods that were stuck at Chinese customs at the end of December were 20 million euros. And 60 million euros worth of goods were en route to China at that time. And they were also not allowed to enter China. And also in the beginning of December, a number of multinational companies reported that they were not able to clear their imports of goods or components into China that contained even the smallest element produced in Lithuania, and were pressured by various agencies in China's government to sever ties with Lithuania, as you said, or face the chance to being shut out of Chinese market. What is very important is that on the 24th of December, EU Trade Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis told that apparently Chinese customs is not processing goods from other EU countries if they contain parts from Lithuania. So this was officially acknowledged. And also, China consistently continues to deny introducing sanctions against Lithuania, but China's state-affiliated media has confirmed on numerous occasions that this was a centralized initiative aimed at punishing Lithuania in an exemplary way to deter others from taking sovereign decisions on questions considered sensitive to China. So my colleagues working in the economic area provided, this list of facts to me, because as I said, I work in security and defense area, but this is very closely related. How can we feel safe when a state that big uses threats, intimidation and coercion towards us? But it shouldn't be surprising, because in the last decade, there were registered more than 150 cases of coercion and intimidation by People's Republic of China towards more than 24 of states in the world.
This is very worrying, and how the People's Republic of China, how they are using their propaganda, what are their propaganda efforts, because what you just said about the sanctions and how they're trying to explain to the world that it actually is Lithuania which is to blame. It's all Lithuania's fault. For example, their state media here, I have some, I just found it on the internet, like Global Times, Hu Xijing, who is a very infamous or famous, I don't know which one is better, a very hostile person towards Lithuania. He called Lithuania a crazy tiny country full of geopolitical fears. Its strategy is to cling to the United States as tightly as possible. Lithuania will eventually pay the price for its evil deed of breaking international rules. But here, it's not Lithuania which is breaking the international rules. Here, it is People's Republic of China who is putting forward an embargo on Lithuanian goods and who is trying to bully Lithuania internationally, because by developing relationships with the people of Taiwan, Lithuania violated nothing. And there is a second thing. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson, Zhao Lijian, on his Twitter, he accused Lithuania of racism. Okay. Which is also very interesting. I know that you're very proficient in human rights. That's one of your main focuses of your work here. And he said that Lithuania has a deplorable human rights records. And I don't know, are these news discussed in Lithuania? Do Lithuanian people, what do Lithuanians think when they hear such a hostile rhetoric coming from the mouthpieces and even the spokespeople of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of a big country like People's Republic of China?
I think that one of the main methods of action for authoritarian regimes is intimidation. So in that we are not very successful, as the majority of Lithuanian society doesn't read what we are writing and how they are scaring us, and we don't really care. So that probably didn't reach the target. But when we are talking about the decision makers and people who are interested in these issues, when we are talking about politicians, experts, the media, our institutions, of course we are worried, because intimidation by a global power, which is becoming more and more hostile, and yes, we know that People's Republic of China has probably the most territorial disputes with its neighbors compared to other countries. I think 17 countries or territories around them, land or maritime debates, and the infamous 9-dash line is something that really is a lesson to everyone that it's a very dangerous territory, that this country, who proclaimed itself to be an economic power, in fact is becoming more and more hostile towards others. So yes, as a small state we are worried, but no, we don't cling to anyone, and we understand that for communist regime it's probably impossible to realize and understand that countries have their independent opinions and positions, and we choose our partners, our allies, and we enter or leave alliances that we decide to after considerations and assessment, and our society has a say in how we proceed. So in this sense, yes, of course, we see United States as a strategic partner, as an ally, which is very important to us. But our foreign policy is our independent foreign policy.